This is Daryl Strawberry.
And this is Tracy Strawberry, and you're listening to On Faith's Edge with Joe Taylor.
For me, I had that, kind of experience as a teenager where I was angry, I was even violent sometimes, and was dealing with a lot of stuff from my childhood that really led me into probably about a year and a half of real despair, even depression. And that was certainly a godless time of my life. And it was in that sort of dark night that I made a real personal decision.
Today I speak with Pastor Bobby Schuller. Bobby Schuller is the grandson of the beloved pastor Robert Schuller. Bobby and I talk about the troubles of the Crystal Cathedral in recent years and how Bobby, following his own path that God has set before him, is reviving the Hour of Power Ministries. This is the 47th episode of On Faith's Edge. Hi. Hello. Welcome to On Faith's Edge. My name is Joe Taylor, recovering atheist and your servant in Jesus Christ. This is your place to hear conversations with people of faith in business and entertainment from all walks of life and levels of success. They all have one thing in common. Like Pastor Bobby Schuller, they believe in God, and they come here to talk about it. Last episode, we spoke with film producer Yochanan Marcelino. Yochanan is the founder, president, and CEO of City of Peace Media and City of Peace Films. Their latest project, The Identical, is a special one. Award-winning actors Ray Liotta, Ashley Judd, Joe Pantoliano, and Seth Green, as well as a fantastic performance by newcomer Blake Green. You can hear that episode at onfaithsedge.com/46. Again, that's onfaithsedge.com/46. Up next, I speak with Pastor Bobby Schuller. Now, if that name sounds familiar, Bobby Schuller is the grandson of beloved pastor Robert Schuller. Bobby and I talk about the Crystal Cathedral, the troubles it has seen in recent years, and how Bobby, following his own path that God has set before him, is reviving the Hour of Power Ministries. Hello, Bobby. Welcome to the show.
Joe, hi. What a privilege to be with you guys today.
Absolutely. Well, let's get right into this. You are the grandson of Robert Schuller.
The one and only.
Absolutely.
Not the one and only grandson, though. He's got quite a few.
Needless to say, big shoes to fill.
Sure.
And I'm certain as we'll find out in this conversation that you're not likely trying to fill his shoes. You have a ministry and a theology of your own and a path of your own that God has put you on. But let's talk just for a minute about Crystal Cathedral Ministries and the Hour of Power.
Sure.
Okay. We know over the past several years, the ministry itself has had some tough times.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through lots of challenges. Really, the loss of leadership of my grandpa, then the loss of leadership of my dad, and then there was just a number of leaders that came and went that were just really unable to kind of carry the day. There's nothing really like sexy that happened. Like everybody's always looking for some dirt. Really, in the end, there was just such a strong following for my grandfather. And that transition to my dad went well, but then from there was just like a big mess where he left and he and my grandpa weren't getting along, and he and his siblings were, and it was just kind of that kind of thing, where there was nothing deep seated about it. It just didn't work out, and the ministry took on some debts from a couple of big projects that were unwise, and in the end that debt crippled the ministry. It was. We had over $50 million in debt from a number of things that the church wanted to do. And essentially that hubris really led to the downfall of the ministry. The great thing, so I didn't come in until much later. I founded my own church, Tree of Life. I went to Fuller Seminary and came out as a church planter and did our own thing. And after the bankruptcy, after all my family members had left, I talked to my grandparents, my dad, and was invited to come pulpit fill while the Crystal Cathedral sort of wrapped things up almost. It was kind of this deal where they needed someone to fill in. So I came in, and that was 2.5 years ago. And since then, we've totally revitalized the ministry. We didn't close down. And in fact, the ministry is growing. We're experiencing incredible revival. We're buying airtime. And it's been bizarre because nobody just saw this coming, and it wasn't like it was me. We brought in a bunch of great leaders, and there's just a new sense of joy and excitement about our both our local church and our TV ministry.
Now, the Crystal Cathedral Ministries, and the Hour of Power, is it still at the actual Crystal Cathedral?
No. We sold the Crystal Cathedral to we didn't sell it. The group before us sold it to the Roman Catholic Church.
Gotcha.
They're there now, and we did like a church swap basically. So we're meeting at another Catholic church down the road. So that's where our operations are, and it's for me it's been better. I although the Crystal Cathedral's gorgeous, I'm a pretty grassroots, down to earth kind of pastor at heart, and the Crystal Cathedral in its beauty also is really a work of art. I think that as a pastor, you almost become like a bit of a curator of a work of art, and I just didn't want to do that. So don't get me wrong, I'd love to have the Crystal Cathedral back, but I think that the Lord had something else in mind for me and our team.
Your grandfather, Robert Schuller, preached positive thinking, personal development, and was very popular in the secular world as a thought leader in business, as a personal development leader. How does your theology and ministries differ from your grandfather's?
Yeah, look, we have the same heart. We do have a touch different theology. I'm still a super positive guy. I think it's, I'm not like my grandpa where, he had motivational speakers knocking at his door, but for me, I'm still a little bit more of a discipleship guy. I was briefly mentored by Dallas Willard, and so I sort of take into a lot of my sermons and stuff a deep understanding of like being a student of Jesus. And so I kind of feel like my grandpa did a lot to sort of till the ground by getting people interested in our ministry. I feel like my job is now to make disciples out of them, and that's where I'm hoping to go.
When it came to kicking off the Hour of Power Ministries again and Crystal Cathedral Ministries, you told a story this morning in an event that we attended together here at NRB about your son. And there is an enemy out there, and the enemy will try to stop us in any way possible. Can you tell us this story about your son? Yeah,
we have a couple of friends who are doing. I don't have permission to mention their names, but they're doing a really big project. And right when they started this great television project, their son was attacked by, basically got a massive brain tumor and cancer. And I didn't know about that. And what was bizarre is as they were telling the story, we had my wife and I the day we started as the chiefs of this ministry, the same thing happened to our son. He had a growth on his brain, a brain growth called polymicrogyria that threatened his life and caused major seizures and cerebral palsy. And we felt the same way they did, that it was just like, it totally felt like an attack. And so I had the chance to pray with this couple, but it was really hard. That's the thing about ministry. One pastor came up and he said, in the book of Job, it's God who mentions Job's name, not the devil. So Job was on God's mind because of the good things he was doing. And it really was just an encouragement to say that, when you do great things for the kingdom of God, sometimes we come under attack, but God is faithful. Like our son is doing pretty well now, but it was just as an emotional roller coaster. You just got to, through that roller coaster, you kind of have to trust the Lord.
Let's talk about happiness according to Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
This is your latest project.
Yeah, that's great. The book doesn't come out till June 9th. But yeah, I wrote a book called Happiness According to Jesus, which is essentially just in an age in which the word happiness is just being hawked around. It's like, how to live a happy life has to do with yoga. It has to do, all these random things that people pick. There's a message in the Sermon on the Mount that happiness comes from giving happiness away. And so I started working on a book that I really wanted for people to move from just like being saved into becoming actual disciples, and that the life of discipleship is a happy life. It doesn't mean it's perfect. Doesn't mean you're going to be rich. It doesn't mean you're going to have everything you always wanted. It means you're going to want different things, and because of that, God will provide those things, and you'll live the fullest, richest life that is so alive you never die. And so happiness according to Jesus is the idea that the first thing he promises in the Sermon on the Mount, that word blessed are the poor in spirit. The Greek is makarios, and you can translate it as happy, absolutely. In fact, in the Message Bible, Eugene Peterson wanted to translate it as lucky, but they wouldn't let him. But I think he did happy. So,
it's interesting though. I start my show off by introducing myself as a recovering atheist, and I still battle those thoughts of doubt every day. But one of the things that sealed the deal for me was when I read the Bible, and I realized that even if I didn't believe in this supernatural entity outside of space and time, if I just followed the life that the Bible has for us, you will live an unbelievably happy, fulfilled, joyous life. Now, who can do that but this thing that people were calling God?
Joe, that's a great point you're touching on, because that's exactly the path that the disciples followed. The first thing, they didn't think Jesus was God when he called them. They just thought he was a famous rabbi.
Right.
And the path they went was from rabbi to prophet to the Son of God. And that's the journey that a lot of people take. I think it's a great way to go, where you begin with Jesus as a moral teacher or a teacher about the wisdom of life, and then you find out, whoa, this stuff is more powerful than just... and then you go, well, maybe this is from God, and then maybe this is God. And so I think that actually beginning with Jesus' moral teachings is a great way to bring people to justification and salvation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bobby, can we talk a little bit about your faith?
Sure.
Now, it may be an oxymoron to ask Bobby Schuller how he came to believe in Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I'm going to.
Okay.
The Schuller heritage is long and honorable.
Thank you, yeah.
But you grew up in the church. You grew up around your grandfather. You grew up around your father, of course. And but was there a time that you said, "Yeah, I believe this stuff. I get it."
Yeah. Well, yeah. For me, I grew up. My parents were divorced, so that affected in a big way my view of faith. Because how could my dad, who's a pastor, get a divorce, kind of thing. But still, my dad was such a great dad. My mom was such a great mom. Both of them engaged us in going to church. Obviously, my dad being a pastor, we'd read the Bible every night around dinner. So I grew up in a really healthy family. But, when you become a teenager, an alien comes and he takes your brain and he flies away, and then he comes back and puts it back when you're about 19 or 20. And for me, I had that, kind of experience as a teenager where I was angry. I was even violent sometimes, and was dealing with a lot of stuff from my childhood that really led me into a probably about a year and a half of real despair, even depression. And that was certainly a godless time of my life. And it was in that sort of dark night that I made a real personal decision at an event in Anaheim, where a minister essentially gave an altar call, and I didn't go down or anything, but I said, I'm going to do this. This is going to be for me. So I was 16, and right from there, I felt like God just totally pulling me into ministry. I started sharing the gospel with people at my school. When I graduated high school, I started volunteering with Ministries, even though I was in business school. So I think God called me from the very beginning to communicate this thing that meant so much to me.
So since that time that you made a quote-unquote adult decision to believe in Jesus Christ, have you ever questioned your faith or even the belief in God?
Yeah, this morning at breakfast I did that, actually. Sure, of course. Questioning it's ridiculous. I've seen incredible miracles in my life. I've seen amazing things, and yet there's something just about life that there's always going to be doubt. Faith is believing in the midst of doubt. It's kind of like, you have faith when you're at the stoplight that somebody's not going to blow through the red light, right? You don't even question it. You have faith in your chair that it's not going to collapse. You sit it. You don't check to make sure all the bolts are right or that someone didn't mess it up. But the best example is an airplane. When you sit on an airplane, you have faith it's going to take off, but you still have fear. Like, you still have your doubts. You still are not really sure this thing's going to get you to where you want to go. And all the scientific evidence is there to support it, right? Flying is the safest way to travel. It's safer to fly somewhere than it is to walk or drive somewhere by a lot, right? Wow. Your chance of getting a plane crash is 1 in millions, and yet that's where people are most scared traveling, right? But you got to use faith. You got to practice your faith, and so yeah, you may have fear, you may have your doubts, but that's kind of how life is, and just the blows of life will cause you to doubt your faith, and sometimes those doubts are valid. Sometimes it's really good not to, when you doubt one aspect of your faith, to not doubt it in its entirety, because there are things that we don't have right. I think I've got probably 70% right and 30% wrong. Problem is, I don't know what that 30% is. And so what I don't want to do is when I'm questioning the 30%, throw the 70% out, right? So it's good to have that kind of posture in our faith. It refines our faith and brings us closer to God. Just don't let it destroy your faith.
Bobby, finally, as we wrap up, what would you say to somebody that is right on faith's edge, about to make that choice to believe or not to believe in God?
Obviously, I'm going to say believe in God. Pascal's wager is a great thing for someone that's. I don't know why someone would sit and just try and decide to believe or not believe. I mean, believing is it's hard to categorize belief as a choice, isn't it? I mean, it sort of just usually happens to us. But yeah, I would say that faith then is putting some of that belief into practice. I think what I would say is that you don't have to have all the faith in the world to be a Christian. Jesus says you just have to have the faith of a mustard seed. You just need like a tiny bit. If there's just one little bit of your heart that believes in God, that's enough. I mean, God will use that. And if you release that and plant it in your heart and give it some time, God will bless that. And so I would say just go for it. What do you got to lose? Try it.
I don't think we can say anything more than that, Bobby. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Sure.
It is Crystal Cathedral Ministries, Reboot It.
Yeah. Shepherd's Grove is the name of our church now.
And Hour of Power Ministries is back on the air.
Oh, yeah. It's all over. Yeah, we're on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And the book is Happiness According to Jesus. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless you,
Thanks,
brother.
Joe. What a privilege.
Appreciate it, man. Bobby's newest book, Happiness According to Jesus, is available at Amazon.com and retailers nationwide. More information can be found in today's show notes at onfaithsedge.com/47. That's onfaithsedge.com/47. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thank you so much again to Pastor Bobby Schuller for being with us, and thank you for listening today. I really appreciate you being here. You mean a lot to me, and you mean a lot to this show. I love you guys. Remember, God is real, and eternity is now. Let's go live like it. God bless.
Thank you for listening to On Faith's Edge. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Internet Radio, or your favorite podcast app on Android, Apple, or Windows devices. To reach out to Joe or leave comments about the show, visit onfaithsedge.com. You're important to us, and we would love to hear from you.